is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Brad and I are doing our top 10 expansions for 2020. Now, this list was a little bit more difficult, at least for me, because I didn't feel like there was a whole lot of expansions that came out this year. But that could just be because I wasn't looking for them, or they were technically in like a bunch of Kickstarters, so it's like you get the whole bundle, and then you're like, oh no, this is the whole game, right? So, so yeah, but we were able to come up with I think a pretty decent list. So, and expansions are always good, right?
Oh yeah.
So
sure.
What?
I was agreeing with you.
What was that? Oh, okay, gotcha. So without further ado, let's get started with an honorable mention for the expansion list, and I believe I am up first. So my honorable mention is Tiny Town's Fortune. So this was the first expansion for Tiny Towns that basically made it a little bit more complex than what Tiny Towns initially was, and this added money. Now, of course, whenever you add money into anything, it always makes it a little bit more complex. But I thought that this was actually handled pretty well. Essentially, you have a chest and you can build buildings that will accumulate money, and then you can spend that money for various actions, basically allowing you to mitigate the type of resources that are getting put out into the board, as well as being endgame victory points if you have any coins left over.
Right.
The reason why this is an honorable mention is probably for what my number 10 is going to be, but I thought that this was actually pretty good. Whenever you take the concept of tiny towns and already make it seem a little bit more puzzly, because it's just like you have your web trying to place resources that you might not even be wanting at that moment because someone else is calling it, and trying to make it work to basically make the best town. And then it's like, okay, well, I got that. Boom, I got it down. And it's like, oh, now let's add coins and add money. But what makes this great is that it added the mitigation, which is what a few people that I've played Tiny Towns with didn't like, especially if you played with more people. That just gave you more chances of you not getting the because you only get one chance to call the resource that you really want. And then, because I've played this game with 6 and even 5, and it's like, so I mean, 4 people could be wanting the same resource, and they're like, okay, well, I want dirt. And it's like, okay, great, I can do that. And the next person is like, I want dirt. And you're like, all right. I guess I'll make that work. Third person is like, I want dirt, and you're like, okay, like, but with Fortune, you can spend money for various building actions, and of course, with this game, more buildings. This is going to make the game even better. So that is my honorable mention: Tiny Towns Fortune.
I still have not played Tiny Towns. I still have my copy in shrink.
Throw it away, Brad. Just throw it away at this point. Like, you know what? I'm never going to play this, and then just in the trash.
There you go. All right,
this would be a perfect game for you and Amy.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. My honorable mention is Sunk Costs.
I have not played this yet. I own it, but I haven't touched it.
Well, I just got it, like, not too long ago. And really, I mean, it just adds more variety and stuff. You get new heroes, so you get new, like, nautical heroes and monsters and stuff. So it gives you more variety as far as that stuff goes. And the items to your shop are more themed, for the seas and all that stuff. But there's another game mode that it brings in. I haven't necessarily tried that yet. It's called Supply Ships.
Okay.
I haven't done that one yet. I pretty much just used this as a add more variety kind of expansion, which this game's awesome anyway, but when you start adding on all that cool stuff, it's just it's just awesome.
Now, can you combine this with just the other stuff?
Yeah.
Now you just have pirate heroes. Okay.
Yeah. So it's just I don't know. It's because I'd played the other one enough that you start your bad guys, your heroes,
Yeah.
all that stuff. This adds in new people, and everything, and I want to try out the supply ships mode. Just I don't know exactly what it does, but
Right.
The reason it's the my 11.
Literally have it right here.
Yeah. The reason it's my 11 is because I have used it just to add more. So it's really good as far as that goes. But yet,
Yeah, it looks like it changes the way players collect item cards. Huh. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, this was one I definitely I think I saw it during Gen Con's like online store,
uh-huh.
which I didn't do any of the online convention stuff because what's the point? Uh, but I remember their store, which was very weak, but I was able to get something and I saw this. I'm like, oh, I didn't know they were making an expansion and bought it immediately because, yeah, Bargain Quest is so good. So awesome. Good choice, even though I haven't played it, but I'm assuming it's great.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
All right. My number 10, which was very funny at how it turned out, but my number 10 is Tiny Town's Villagers. So I like this one slightly better than Fortunes, obviously, because it made the list. And the reason why this one is above Fortunes is because I would rather play this one over Fortunes, because this one still adds the complexity, like the slight complexity to Tiny Towns, but it's not, I don't think it's as complex whenever you add money. Basically, this one adds little villager meeples that everyone starts out with in the corners of their board. But it's what you do is whenever you build a building, basically if you place a resource in a spot with a villager, they have to move away. But you are trying to build a building so that whenever you build it and put the building in the spot, you can put it in the spot with the villager. And now they are working in that building. What's cool is that during setup, you set up a special powers that will utilize these villagers. And once again, this adds the mitigation for the game, which I don't know if that's something that everyone wanted, like if they liked the randomness of what resources are getting called, or if they, didn't, because both expansions give players that control without it being basically just place whatever you want. Because, for example, one of the abilities might be like if you have a villager in a building because you spend them. It's like, okay, let's say you call glass and I don't want that, but I have a villager in a building. I can spend that villager, and let's say one of the abilities is you don't have to place a resource that someone calls, and you're like, okay, boom, I'm not doing that. So it gives you a little bit more control over what's going in. But once again, both those expansions don't overdo it to where you're just really not playing the concept of the game. It just gives you a little bit more freedom into the randomness, but keeping that randomness there. So AEG, I believe, did a fantastic job with both of these expansions, players that opportunity. And while there's not as many villager powers as I would like, I think there's like 6 in total, because there's I think there's like 6 or 8, but like one of them is for the cost of one villager that's in a building, and then the other second power that's throughout the whole game is either at the cost of 2 or 3. But so I wish there was a little bit more. However, they are really becoming creative with the types of buildings that can be built throughout the game. So more content for buildings is always good, and so I like this one a little bit better. So that's Tiny Town's Villagers.
Interesting. I need to try these out.
Yeah, well, you should probably play the base game first,
Yeah,
and then before you. But here's the thing: you can play with both of these. Like, I wouldn't start out with that because it's kind of the same concept as like photosynthesis or any other Blue Origin game, really, where you're like, oh yeah, no, this seems really simple, but then it ends up being a little bit more puzzly than you would imagine. I would probably say that the concept of Tiny Towns sounds so simple, but then when you add currency, and villagers to it that it's like, oh, wait a minute, okay, now I have a little bit more than I anticipated to think about. However,
Gotcha.
if you play Tiny Towns first, you probably play it once and understand how the game's going to work, and then throw in one of the expansions. But you can play with both if you really just want true mitigation. But
Right.
I have not tried it with both. I've just tried the base game with one or the other. But yeah, they're
Gotcha.
both fantastic.
All right. So my number 10, I know, is going to be lower on your list. And I put it up here because I kind of couldn't decide if it was an expansion or not.
Gotcha.
And I went and I did this.
Oh!
Because I can see where it is an expansion. It was kind of one of those, I was waffling whether it was an expansion or a game by itself. I went higher on it being a game by itself. But
Gotcha.
I also see the relevance of the expansion. That's why I went at 10 with it. And for the same reasons that I'm sure you're going to say later, is just the fact that this game has it just fixed a lot of we talked about the tiles, having the book, those intro,
it actually gave the game some art.
Yeah, the scenario, or not scenario, the early 5 missions that kind of get you into the game. I like that they have it to where the heroes from this can be played in the other game as well. So that's really cool because the guys we use would be badasses and regular Gloomhaven as well.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really cool that they, in Jaws of the Lion, the 4 heroes are unique from any of the other, what there's like 10, I think, in regular Gloomhaven.
Something like that.
15. 15 sounds a little much. But it's not like that they took 4 heroes from, Gloomhaven and just kind of slightly reskin them. They're 100% for additional heroes if you already loved Gloomhaven, and great, I just have more heroes to play. Or if you are iffy, if you didn't like Gloomhaven or you've never touched it, you have 4 unique heroes in this. Because I love playing what I call him, Luciferian Bloodlord. Yeah, the red guard with the sickle and like the fire blades. Yeah, he's basically Satan. Satan. So yeah, this one's a weird one because it's like, it's technically its own game. It is a prequel to Gloomhaven. It's just dependent on your point of view on, I guess, standalone games. But yeah, I get it. I get on why it's at least number 10. More so than like, I don't know, like Dead of Winter, The Long Night. Yeah, that's technically a standalone expansion, but it feels more just like more content for Dead of Winter than this one is more like, this is a completely different game. So I don't know. It's weird, but it's great. So yeah, I get it. And I will say I am glad that it's at least number 10 on this list versus being like number 1 on this one. It's just like, it's a little weird. Yeah. So cool. All right. My number 9 is Chronicles of Crime 1400. Now, this would probably be higher if all of them were out right now from the Millennium series. Like, it's like 1400, 1900, and then 2100. I think that's how they, but Chronicles of Crime is such a fantastic game. Like, you have played Chronicles of Crime, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. I've played all of my games. Okay. Yeah. So this is just one of the best deduction, whodunit crime games, and I always go back and forth on which one I like more between this one and Detective. But I think at this point I have solidified it. Now, this one is still really good. They add a few mechanisms into at least the 1400 series that I thoroughly enjoyed. One of which being kind of like prophecy cards, where they are just pictures of what happens to be the scenario at that point, and you're like, okay, they don't tell you anything, but they're like, okay, well, later on, if we find something, like we happen to show, like, find a person, then we're like, oh, wait a minute, he's in this picture. Okay, so we might need to go somewhere to see if he's there. It gives you basically hints throughout the scenario. I was a little worried, honestly, with this one, because I was like, well, I don't really care about the French Renaissance or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's a theme that doesn't really do it for me. But the scenarios that Kat and I did play, they made it interesting enough that the theme was strong in there. And what I mean by that is that it kind of overlooked the inerrant, boring thought of the 1400s by making it interesting. So we very much enjoyed this, just like we've enjoyed every other one. And yeah, that's why it's my number 9, Chronicles of Crime 1400. But I am more excited for the other two.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because it's neat that they sent all the product, for the Kickstarter, but we're just waiting on the app integration for the other two.
Yeah, I mean, and there's so many scenarios that, I mean, I'd rather just have the stuff that just be like for like 1900 to get my stuff for it, and then also the app. So it's like I'd rather just wait, because I mean I have so many other scenarios for Chronicles of Crime that I'll be busy until the new content does come out. And there's what's great about this game in general is that they have a bunch of fan-made ones or free ones that utilize the content already. So that's the great thing about apps, is that you don't have to keep buying new stuff. And what's cool about this is that the same people can be used in different ways. You just change what their QR code says. So,
yep.
Yeah. This one surprised me, because out of all the three, like for the Millennium series, this was the one that I didn't really care about, but I enjoyed it. And
I'm
that
excited for the Cyberpunk one.
Yeah,
that's the one I want.
Yep, especially with Cyberpunk coming out. I mean, I'm playing it on my PC, so it's working great for me. So.
It's working great for me too.
Oh wow, awesome.
Yeah, the patches came through and it's working really well.
It's getting better. Yeah, I think there was a recent one, right?
There was one just like last night.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Awesome. All right, so yeah, it's my number 9.
All right, so my number 9 is the Wild Ride expansion for Downforce. This one's really cool because you're doing it's, of course, the expansion, pretty much all it is it's a double-sided board. That's but there's also some 3D aspects that jump into this one. One track is can't remember what it's called, but it brings in ramps, so you can your cars will actually ramp and jump and stuff. And then the other track is the savannah, and there's wild animals that run around throughout the streets that you can't hit either.
You can run over.
Yeah. So it's like these big ass animals and stuff crossing the street. But
okay, that's pretty cool.
So this one, I mean,
so if you ramp, do you just get to ramp over people?
Cars. Yeah, because the track crisscrosses, so you can
all right,
do different stuff. And you can jump people depending on how. Yeah, it just I like this one because it's not just a boring, just a track with turns and stuff. But because the expansion before this had debris on the roads and stuff like that.
Oh, all right.
That was printed on the board.
Oh, so there's been 2 expansions for Downforce already.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
There's the danger circuit and then Wild Ride.
Okay. So they've had 6 total tracks?
There's 6 tracks, yes.
6 now. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I do want to give this game another shot, because whenever we played it, I don't know, it didn't work for me, but I think knowing what the game is kind of like, I think I don't think I did bad because once again, it's not about your car making it to the finish line.
Right.
You can bet on others.
It rewards more plays just learning that, because when any racing game, you automatically think, well, I need to get my car in there and win, and the game's not about that. The game is about betting correct.
Right.
And stuff. So it's
yeah, I kind of want to try this one again.
Yeah, it's a good one for sure.
Awesome.
Anyway, that was my number 9, Wild Ride.
That was your number 9, Wild Ride. All right, my number 8 is Hostage Negotiator Career. Now, this one is probably higher on your list because you are definitely more of a solo gamer than I am. However, this one, I got. So it was weird because I assumed that what I got was actually newer, but or like the other expansions to it were also 2020, but they weren't. This was the one that came out this year. And you've done this, right? You've I don't know. Well, okay, yeah. Hostage Negotiator by itself, like the base game, I don't think would actually be kind of on my radar because I feel like it is a little bit too random in terms of its dice. And what Career brought was an actual story, a 10-year story of your career as a hostage negotiator. And I thought it was so thematic and extremely tense and had a ton of variety that it had to make this list because you start out at technically year 0 where you basically graduate from the academy, and that's kind of like your kickoff point. But as the years go on, certain like new no, not hostages, new man, what do they call those people that hold hostages? Those guys.
The abductors.
Abductors, yeah. New abductors come out, but it's not one of those scenarios where, play 10 games of hostage negotiator and just see what happens. No, there's actual story. You can go up in your career. You can make allies with people who can come in. How well you do in saving people will change kind of how well you do in the future in terms of story elements. You can get stress, which is like you can have outside elements of stress with your marriage or stress with work or just life in general that kind of make it feel a little bit more personal. You can even slightly role play this expansion, and it just gave more depth to what Hostage Negotiator was, where it's just like, okay, yeah, I guess I play cards and roll dice and try and just save. It gave more weight to the game, which I very much enjoyed. So, while I will say this would be higher if the end of the whole career thing wasn't as samey, I did not enjoy the final like year 10 or the epilogue, whatever it was called. It was kind of lame for me in a game that had so many different like variety for the different years. But nonetheless, the journey up to that final ending was so good that I kind of overlooked the final ending. That's my number 8, Hostage Negotiator Career.
Good choice. All right, my number 8 is
awesome.
Crime. And I really don't have much more to say on this one, just because without doing spoilers, I agree with what you said. I'm a big history guy.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So I was really looking forward to this one as well. And it didn't disappoint. Just some of the really cool aspects they bring in and that time period and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I like with Chronicles of Crime, like my favorite Chronicles of Crime of the original stuff was the noir.
I actually haven't touched that yet.
Yeah. The more and then more modern day stuff, it's still good. And then I'm really looking forward to the future one.
Yeah.
But for right now, this 1400 one with the little tweaks that they made, and they always seem to make, there's little tweaks with any of the new series types things. But I enjoyed this one, how they did it, and I can't wait for the other ones to get ready to roll.
Yeah, because I mean, you mentioned the little tweaks, and it's like, so we haven't touched the noir yet. We haven't even finished everything from the base game, but we did go into the Welcome to Redview, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
And yeah, they make that one feel like a kind of Scooby-Doo-esque Stranger Things kind of feeling, where it's like a bunch of kids trying to solve a mystery. And yeah, they add, different ways to play the game without making it overly complex. And I enjoy everything that they've put out so far. So here's to more Chronicles of Crime goodness.
For sure.
All right. Well, that was easy. My number 7 is Aeons End Outcasts. Now, this one is kind of interesting and similar to the Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, is that this is really actually a standalone game. You can buy this one and be perfectly fine with playing it. However, the reason why I justify it more as an expansion than a standalone game is that it continues the story of Aeons End Legacy. Now, while Legacy wasn't great, at least it added more stuff. And with New Age and Outcasts, they basically have completely fixed that storytelling aspect that they put into Legacy. Whereas Legacy was the kickstart to their overarching world, the actual Legacy part of that I felt was very lackluster. However, New Age and Outcast, what they do is they basically come with like 4 mini stories, like scenarios, but are able to pack kind of a punch with the storytelling. So you have like envelope 1 and a separate deck of cards that are going to have story elements, and then you kind of read those, and then now open envelope 1 and card pack A, and those are going to be the new cards that you can play with it, and then it'll tell you which boss you're fighting, which is pertinent to that story. This one is, Aeon's End is such a fantastic game anyway. At more content is always good, because then of course once you're done with the campaign, you can just put it all into your plethora of expansion or Aeons End content. It's insane. Because they had the randomizers for all the gems, spells, and relics, all the bosses that, I don't think there's been a single boss in New Age and Outcasts that I didn't enjoy. And this one was hard, and they are becoming extremely creative in how the breach mages work, like their special abilities, and how the monsters work, where some of them aren't even like overly aggressive. It's just that they have different ways of ending the game or different ways of winning. And I genuinely enjoy the story. I'm slightly invested into where they're going with this overarching thing. And Outcasts added a new mechanic that I thought was awesome, especially if you've played Legacy. Now, that's what I'm saying, is that if you played this one without playing Legacy, you would probably be a little confused into how the okay, well, what's this go? What's going on over here? I'm not understanding why this person is, what he is, or what his agenda is. But I have played all of it, so I do know what's going on. And they do it in bite-sized chunks. You don't have 8 or 10 games to play. You have like 4 in New Age and Outcasts that add more to the story. So yeah, Outcasts is fantastic. The bosses are great. The breach mages are great. And more content for Aeon's End is awesome. Now I just need fucking a storage solution to the game, and then I'll be set.
A big chest.
Pretty much, because Legacy I thought was supposed to be that storage solution, and I guess technically it is, but it's just not ideal. So I'm thinking, if they came out with kind of like a big box of what like Smash Up did, then you'd be good. Just different tiers of cards with the I'll take any type of divider, but it'd be really cool if they did those plastic dividers.
Well, I think a lot of those organizer companies have talked about, stuff, but I think they're just on pause, waiting until they're done making content.
Yeah.
Because they come out with it like once a year, once every year and a half. There's a
right. And man, I don't know if they've announced another one. I mean, they probably should, because this story didn't officially end. So it's like, I mean, they come out. I would say, man, who's the company here? It is Indie Boards and Cards.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
They're like, okay, well, here's our Kickstarter in February, and boom, it's like 6 months later, it's already out. So their turnaround time for these games are awesome. And you would think, oh, well, they come out so quick, they must suck. No, New Age was great. Outcasts is great, because original Aeons End, what kind of the problem was, you played a Breach Mage and you had your ability that was only your ability, and you had really no way of feeling that cooperative nature. But a lot of the new Breach Mages that you can play, some of the spells and a lot of the spells, relics, and gems allow you to, use someone else's spell or help someone else in powering up their abilities, or just different ways to fully cooperative. And that's another aspect of why I like this. So yeah, like Aeons End, Outcasts, my number 7. And I'm looking on Board Game Geek, and it looks like I'm not seeing anything slated for 2021. So as of right now, there isn't more content coming.
Right.
There's more content coming.
Oh yeah. I'm so far behind in that too. Like, yeah. I have not played. Just tell you how far I have not played anything since War Eternal. I have everything.
Yeah.
But War Eternal, the second box, that was the last thing I'd played.
I mean, if you have everything, I mean, I'll gladly play all of it with you. Like, right. Legacy is good just for the story and the more content. But New Age and Outcast really hone it and confine it to where it's like, okay, boom, and manageable. 4 games. That's it. For the story anyway.
Right.
So yeah, I think you should definitely get it played.
Oh, I know. Right now it's so hard because everything is so like everywhere. And then I have you have those bricks of cards, it's like, don't open this one yet, and don't, and all this stuff. And it's just like, God damn it. It's so confusing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually in the process of buying one of those broken token and Hobby Lobby wooden crates.
Yeah.
It's working out. So, I mean, I bought one, and it stored a lot of the stuff, but there's so much content, I need another one.
Yeah.
Because the hard part is the heroes and the monsters, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Those card games, man, like, because let's see, yeah, I mean, Arkham Horror LCG hasn't come out with anything in terms of card storage. ThunderQuest did, so that's something. AEG tends to actually do a pretty good job with their card storage. Like, Edge of Darkness holds everything. Smash Up holds everything. ThunderQuest doesn't quite hold everything, but it has a little bit more than just cards. So you will see, but I will make it work. This game is fantastic, and was the Kickstarter to really me liking deck builders. So gotta give props to that.
All right. So my number 7.
Yep.
Is, I know you're not gonna like it, but it's I gotta move our faces. It's the Shadowed Paths expansion, big box expansion for Journeys of Middle Earth.
All right.
Now
that's kind of a cool artwork that Kat found. The split between the two.
I think that's how the box is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So what this one does is it brings in like 13 more missions. And half of them are in Mirkwood and the other half are in Moria. And the playable characters are kind of cool in this one, because Arwen comes in as a playable character. And
Arwen, like the elf?
Arwen, the elf, yeah.
Okay.
And then Gandalf is a playable character now. And then and then you have, I brought it up here because I couldn't remember, Balin, one of the dwarves from Hobbit.
Oh, one of the dwarves?
Yeah, and then Eleanor, or Eleanor, I don't know.
Eleanor.
And then and then Dis. another little
Who?
dwarf. It's like a little
Oh,
dwarf, a female dwarf or something. I don't know.
no
Anyway,
idea.
I like Gandalf. That was a pretty cool addition. But
Because
pretty
this
much
was in
it's just
the mines, right? The mines of Moria.
it's half. It's Mines of Moria and then Mirkwood.
Oh,
So
okay.
like as you can tell with the split screen, like Mirkwood, you're out in the forests and stuff, and
Right.
then but what's cool about this as well is it brings in the Balrog. Um,
That
so
is cool.
you have that huge miniature and all that stuff to go with, and um, but I like this game quite a bit. I still like Mansions of Madness better,
Yeah.
but
This app is great.
yeah, the
Like,
app's wonderful, and I like
yeah.
the card resolution um, on passing things. The one complaint I have about it is it takes forever to upgrade or level up.
Right.
Get items and stuff, but it's a I don't see that big of a problem with it. And it plays wonderful solo,
Right.
super easy, and so this expansion more or less it doesn't really add anything new per se other than just more stuff.
More content. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I
Plus, I
mean, this
like.
game definitely needed. It needed more content. I don't know. This one just kind of fell flat for me. I expected it to be a lot better than it was, but I just kind of wasn't as drawn into the base game, which you think Lord of the Rings, it's like, oh yeah, like I mean, basically my all-time favorite movies. And I love the world and everything about it. But yeah, the game just was kind of just okay. It was okay.
Yeah, and
So
it's so yeah. I just like it. I mean, because it brings in some more iconic characters as well.
yeah,
Gandalf's pretty cool with the
yeah. 'Cause in
spells.
the base game, right. In the base game, the only iconic character was I mean you could play Legolas and Bilbo. I think those were the two that were at least named people from the
Um,
base game.
yeah, because Aragorn was he in there?
I don't think so, but it's also been a little bit since I even touched this game. I bought it, played it like 3 or 4 times, and I was like, all right, well this is kind of
Well, like
boring.
yeah,
So
because the last few times I've played this, I just grabbed Arwen and
and
Gandalf when I was
Gandalf,
playing the expansion.
yeah. Okay. Well, I
Yeah,
mean, if it adds more areas for you to go into, I'm assuming that did this add more to the campaign, the original campaign, or was it its own story?
it's an all new campaign with 13
Okay.
scenarios. So
That's not
I don't,
bad.
yeah. So
I mean,
it's
the
not
game
bad
was
at all.
what, $80? The
Yeah, it's a
expansion
lot.
was
There's a
like,
lot of it, a lot of miniatures though. I mean, like
yeah.
it's got a lot of plastic in it and tiles.
Fantasy Flight is they're towing that line of the price on their games.
Well, and you got
But
a part of that is paying for their app too, because that
right, but
you know
at the same
it's
time, it's like the app isn't physical, like so it's not really. I get it, but at the same time, it's like with it's like I'm not paying for a video game, like I'm paying for a board game, which is all content. So they shouldn't jack up the price just because they chose to app integrate it. But
right.
which I'm all for app integration, but now when an expansion is going to, which I mean, is this a standalone expansion or do you need the base game for it?
You need the base game.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of I slightly see it a little price spike for a base game, but yeah, this one was expensive, which was another reason why no way in hell I was gonna give it another shot.
Well,
Um,
how much do the big box expansions for Mansions of Madness run? Aren't they like
uh,
60,
that is
something like that?
a good question. Let's
Because I mean,
see.
there's
Let's
miniatures in
do
those and tiles and
right. Let's do Mountains of Madness. What was
not
it?
mountains
Path
of
of the
Madness,
Serpent.
mansions.
Mansions of Madness.
Wrong game.
Mansions. Mansions of Madness. We'll do Path of the. There we go. $47.
Is that miniature market price or is that MSRP?
Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, miniature market, it's $50. It seems to be around average of 45 to $50 everywhere. But I mean, I think this one also had a shit ton of stuff. This was a giant box, right? Like same size of the base game.
It wasn't quite as big as the base game, but it was pretty good size.
Yeah, because the Path of the Serpent ones, like they're about that big in terms of the boxes.
Yeah.
And you really don't get a whole lot of content in that. So once again, it's just I guess to each their own. I mean, I'm just throwing a huge fit because I didn't really like this game as much. But it's like $50 for Mansions of Madness, hell yeah. But this one also did add 13 scenarios, whereas the Mansions expansions really only add like 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you do kind of get your money's worth with at least a whole new 13 game campaign. So I will give it props to that. And the Mines of Moria with the Balrog. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's pretty. His miniature looks pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, good choice, I guess. Now we'll move on to my number 6. Where is Role Player Fiends and Familiars? I believe this is number 6. So with Role Player,
yes.
It is? Okay, great. So Role Player Fiends and Familiars is a phenomenal expansion, whereas I will say that the Monsters and Minions is out of the two my favorite, but because that gave you like more to do with your character. This one was a wonderful addition to the Role Player game. And with this one you got those man, what do they call it? They're not holographic, but they're like the monsters that you can like turn and they kind of,
I think they call it lenticular.
Yeah, that's it. That was a really cool thing that you can get with this Kickstarter. I absolutely love Role Player. It's D&D, in a nutshell, as you create your character and go out and fight monsters. And then this one basically allows you start out with a familiar, which is an animal that now gives you a little bit more mitigation of where you can place dice, because they can have their own dice, but once again, that's going to be more points. They have their own attributes that you kind of want to get them to. But at least sometimes when you're drafting cards, it's like, oh my god, that one, oh wait, I can put it in my familiar and not have to mess with my own attributes. This one, and they also have special abilities, like the familiars have unique special abilities and just give you a little bit more depth to your character whenever you do want to roleplay it. And the Fiends, I think, were really cool too, because the Fiend cards come out with certain levels of the drafting. So it's like, okay, well, if you really want this one, this initiative, you're gonna have to take this Fiend, but you can obviously remove them. It takes a little bit more for you to do, but you can remove them, and then you can gain victory points through that, through different levels of cards that you might have. Of course, this really added a lot more content, more items, more monsters to the game. And I was hesitant a little bit when I heard this, because I was like, really? Monsters and Minions added so much more that this one just felt like, or I thought it was going to be just kind of like, oh, well, who cares? It's just more content. But it ended up have a little bit more depth to it than I initially thought. So more content to Role Player, Fiends and Familiars, and of course we have Role Player Adventures coming out next year that you truly get to play. You get to build your character and truly go out on an adventure with them. So keep coming, Role Player. Like it's amazing. I very much like this game in terms of the dice drafting and placement.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Is it going to be higher on your list?
I don't know. I guess we'll see. I can't remember. All right.
Yes,
so my
number 6.
All right, my number 6.
Oh wow! Okay.
Angler's Cove expansion for Tidal Blades.
Wow.
Have you played this yet?
Yeah, I actually played it whenever first started Tidal Blades. We put in the Angler's Cove expansion.
Okay.
And funny enough, I didn't even consider it as an expansion game with the base game. And I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, this one's unique, which is why I got up here because the first several games of Tidal Blades I played, I didn't use this, and
Yeah.
then I threw this in, and I think the Outcast tokens that they have with this one are like it's a negative for you. It's kind of like it's almost like the judge is catching you cheating or something like that,
Right.
or on your challenges. But excuse me. But yeah, it's really neat. There's a lot of stuff that comes to that little box too. I mean, you get all these dice because it's a whole another fifth player. Which I don't. What's the most you've ever played this game with?
3.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'd want to play it
with more.
I don't know if I'd want to play it with 5. Yeah, for sure. But
no, there's not enough. I don't think there's enough actions and locations to justify 5. It felt pretty tight with 3, but still gave us enough that we weren't like bumping into each other. But you still had the chance of someone going where you might have wanted to go. But yeah, like 4 or 5, I feel like it's like, okay, well, I'm never going to get to go anywhere.
Right.
So,
but with this Angler's Cove, it adds a new board that you put down, and when you go and visit there, that's the thing. When you visit there, you have to take an Outcast token and stuff. But you can attempt a challenge that belongs to any arena there, which is a benefit, you know.
And the locations are a lot better. Like you can go to a location and get like 4 ingredients and a item card, a market card.
Right. Yeah. There's one that's like you can get a novice dice and then like shells and fruit, a bunch of shells and fruit and stuff and all that. It's pretty powerful. They kind of use that Outcast token thing almost kind of like the Skulls of Skullport or whatever. On Lords of Waterdeep.
Oh, and Lords of Waterdeep, I've played that.
The spots were really powerful, but you would take those skulls that were bad for you. You know, it's kind of a
and I like mechanisms like that where it's like, man, this is really powerful, but is it worth the negative? Because the Outcast tokens were random,
right?
Like, and it was basically whoever had the highest total of Outcasts got negative points, and it was a pretty significant negative points by the end of it, but you had ways to get rid of them too.
Right. So, I mean, it just added a little more to a game that had a lot of choices already, but then this lets you kind of push your luck a little bit and grab a bunch of stuff. But you kind of
Did you play with the new character?
I have not played with the new character yet. Somebody else has.
He is cool. So that's who I played because at first I thought he was a frog, but he's a chameleon with that roly-poly. I guess like his story is you're helping the roly-poly look for his wife. I don't know what the hell was going on.
Interesting.
But he was really cool because he's from like the Rift area where like all the monsters are coming from.
Right.
So a lot of his powers are very much geared towards going out and fighting. The monsters. So that's kind of what I did mainly with him. But yeah, the great thing about this is everyone has their deck of like hero cards, but you're only ever going to get a max of 3 of them out.
Right.
It depending on if you get that particular dial all the way up. So yeah, if I had even considered, I don't know why I didn't even think of this as an expansion. I think once again, all the Kickstarter stuff comes in and I'm like, yep, this is all Tidal Blades, like, or this is all whatever. So I never, usually it's like, I mean, this one came with the base game and just one expansion, which is great. Normally it's like, oh, boom, here's the base. Other expansions that I never get played because I'm trying to still trudge through the base.
Right.
But this would have made my list had I thought of it. This was a solid expansion in Druid City Games or Skybound Games, whichever one it is.
It's Druid City is the main one.
Druid City. Yeah. They did a great job at honing this game in and not just doing their normal, Kickstarter bloat. And because now they have the freedom to, I mean, I don't know if they will, but they could add another expansion to Tidal Blades because you can just have more locations and more monsters and stuff like that. So, yeah,
My
I
guess
really
is my guess is they're not going to do any more expansions for it at all, unless it's super small
probably not.
stuff. Just because they spent so much time with getting that box to be what it was. I don't know if they're going to do
Yeah,
anything to over bloat it since they're coming out with a
that's true.
year two and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, oh well, the game's fantastic as
Oh, it
is.
is very
So
much
yeah,
so.
this is a good choice. Yeah, this is a solid choice.
All right, here we go.
All right. My number 5. My number 5 is Detective Season 1. Now, technically, this is a standalone game. You can buy this one and play it like normal, but it's also, for me, it was kind of a standalone expansion to Detective. And what this one brought in was 3 new cases, 3 new easier cases to bring people into the game, because the original Detective was so kind of like, oh my god, like that Charlie Day fucking like has all the posters, and you're just like, okay. So uh this one, Kat and I actually, I believe, did all of these, because there's 3 that come in the box. I think we did all of these in a day, and by the end of it I was like, oh man, my brain hurts. But they were so good. All 3 of them were fantastic in their own right, and uh ones that Kat and I were actually legitimately still talking about how well they were the next day, which is hard, which is rare, honestly. Like, if a game is great, we talk about it that day, but normally once we're done playing a game, we're like, okay, yeah, that was that. But here we were legitimately still talking about one of the stories for a little bit on how good it was. In fact, my copy came with a designer journal where they talk about their process of coming out with the story. And for one of the scenarios, I read that because I was like, how did they come up with this? This one was so much fun. So this, and at Detective Modern Crime board game does it, I do like it better than Chronicles of Crime. I love the meatiness to it. I love the website that they have. Portal Games is just knocking it out of the park with this series. And it's exciting because they obviously called this season 1, and you wouldn't call something a season if you weren't planning on doing more. So I hope they end up doing more seasons for it that are congruent in their own way. But yeah, if you pretty much like Detective, a modern crime board game, then I think definitely go out and get this one. And you can include other people who might think these games are a little bit too hard than they need to be. This is not the case with this one. This one has simpler resolution in its stories, to where it's like, if you think that that the solution is what it is, that's probably what it's gonna be, instead of it being like, oh, I think this is what it is, and then you answer the question and it's like, nope, idiot, you missed this very obscure hint that would have given you the true answer, and you're like, what? How would anyone think that? None of these were so solid and so much fun. So my number 5, Detective Season 1.
I have the base game still in shrink. I haven't opened it yet.
Of course you do. Of course you do. But this is cooperative, so you'll probably never get it played.
Well, I bought it because Amy wanted it, so we'll see.
Oh, well, we shall see. So
yeah.
After we're done doing this, you need to play Tiny Towns, and you need to play a Detective.
Yeah,
that's your homework. Right, that's your homework for today, though.
Gotcha.
So
all right,
that's my number 5.
So my number 5 is Too Many Bones, Splice and Dice.
I was wondering if you were going to put one of these on the on your list.
Yeah, this one is pretty the game is Too Many Bones is a very, very complex game. But and then this adds more complexity to the complexity. But it's fun because what you're doing is you are there's different, it's modular, there's different stuff in this expansion, but the one that makes it stand out the most is you because when you play Too Many Bones, there's a tyrant, like the main bad guy. So you're playing through it's like a mini not really even a campaign. You're going through, you're traveling, spending certain days traveling to get to the tyrant to defeat the tyrant. Well, this one,
Okay.
what happens is there is a create a tyrant. So there's a little play mat, and as you beat certain levels as you're going through, then that will determine what dice you slot into the holes of this tyrant mat.
All right.
And then so the tyrant is being created and being all bolstered up and super powered, and you're kind of creating him by defeating people. So you almost need to be wary and selective on who you're defeating during that travel, because if you defeat this thing, then that may make his attack super powerful. So you may want to defeat this other one that has a little bit of a weaker attack, so his attack won't be as hard. It's it's hard to explain, right? But I mean, if I had the playmat thing out, I could show you like what it looks like. But it's just it's kind of like that. Got this shadowy figure of the tyrant with the dice slots, and then those dice slots fill up as you're going through the story, and then that you're creating him to battle him.
Okay.
And stuff. But it adds a lot more complexity to it.
Right.
This is a game that normally I would kind of shy away from because of the over complexity of the game.
Yeah.
But it's so the quality is so good, and and it just takes up a small amount of table space. You just kind of go with it. It's quick setup, quick go. Once you start getting
especially
used to
with like the trove chest.
Right.
Like you can just like, boop, okay, here we go.
Right. And once you get used, because each character, I mean, like I'm telling you, when you have a character that you have picked, it has a front and back instruction sheet on how all the stuff that your character can do. I mean, there's a lot of shit you got. But then, so back on the expansion, I mean, it's a modular expansion. It adds more complexity and variety as far as the tyrant stuff goes. And it's just cool. It's the latest. It was their latest Kickstarter. I don't know. They have plans to do a little bit more, because they said there's a little bit of room in the trove chest that they have planned for.
Got to fill it out.
Yeah. So, but it's a good one for sure. I really enjoy it.
I'll eventually get all my Too Many Bones stuff. They sent me the fucking trove chest.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this fucking thing? Like, it has a spot now. It's over, where basically all my broken token crates are, but it's empty. And they have all the stuff out for Too Many Bones, and I emailed them, and I'm like, hey, can you just send me all that stuff instead of, like, because I have to wait for the Cloudspire stuff to be done. So it's like, they're like, no, we ordered it on demand, so we'll send it when and it's like, okay, well, that's stupid. Like,
in January, when all the Cloudspire is supposed to come out anyway.
That's the date that I have in my head for some reason. So I mean, it's not like I'm hurting for games to play, but yeah, it was odd that I got the trove chest, and mine did kind of show up a little banged up.
A lot of them did.
Yeah, but it was an easy fix.
Yeah, mine didn't have any damage.
Yeah, it didn't come like shattered or anything. It's just like a piece was a little loose, so I just put tape on it, and I'm like, all right, fixed. But this is a game I'm very excited for. I think, Chip Theory just has probably technically the best components in gaming, with neoprene mats and waterproof cards and plastic cards and waterproof everything, really. That I was very excited for this one, because it seemed to have it was fully cooperative in that, and it had a campaign kind of style storytelling to it, whereas Cloudspire was your MOBA game, but had a very fantastic solo.
Solo is great with this. You could play 2 players. I mean, that would be about the max.
You wouldn't play this with more?
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
No. I was like, when I play solo, I will do one hero sometimes or two heroes.
Okay.
So you could play two people with each one hero, you know.
Gotcha.
But would not go above that. Your fighting arena is only like a 4x4 grid, or maybe.
Right.
So I mean, it just gets way too convoluted if you start going anymore.
Okay.
But
all right, good to know.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Awesome. All right, my number 4 is Root the Underworld expansion, and this is actually really fantastic because I just played Root last night with both of these expansions, or both of these factions in the game. We actually play the 5-player game with the Cats, the Eerie, a Vagabond, the Duchy, and then the Corvid conspiracy. So and it was great. Everyone, like, Root is such a phenomenal asymmetric war game. And this is no like, both the expansions for Root I think are rock solid. The Lizard Cult and the Beavers from the other one are great, and this one are no different. The Corvid conspiracy and the Duchy, Underground Duchy, are so unique, obviously, and they have to be asymmetric to the other ones, that they're just so good. The Underground Duchy, basically what they have is they have a deck of nobles that the player can bring out, and that gives them like more actions that they can do, because they can only really do 2 inherent actions during their daylight step. But if they can have a squire that gives them a free move, they can have one that gives them a free build, and they have different levels of nobles that they can hire. I think it's squire. I can't remember what the middle one is called, but then they have lords, and lords are really going to be how they acquire a lot more points. That's how the duchy kind of ramps up. But they also, once again, can, if you keep any faction in this game, if you leave them alone, then they are most likely going to win, because every faction has the ability to ramp up exponentially. But all of them have a way of just getting stopped in a particular way. The duchy, for example, is that if you destroy any of their buildings, then they have to remove their highest level noble they have brought out. So lords are great, but they're going to be the easiest to get removed. The Corvid are really, they basically have extreme mobility. They can kind of show up anywhere, and they plant plot tokens, and plot tokens can range from a bomb, which removes all enemy pieces, like including buildings and workers. They can put in what do they call it? Basically, oh man, they have raids, which if the token is just removed, then you place a plot. You place a warrior in every adjacent spot, so that's how they can branch out even more. And they have other plot tokens. But what's great about them is that they get points based off each face-up plot tokens, and they can flip up as many as they want, and they gain points for whenever they flip up the tokens. However, the players can go into a spot, reveal a card of that clearing, and be like, and guess what it is. So it's like, if there's a lot of enemies in one particular spot, most likely the Corvid is going to be putting a bomb there. So you can go in, show, a rabbit card and be like, okay, is this a bomb? And if it's right, the plot gets removed without activating, and they don't gain anything for it. But if they're wrong, then the Corvid actually gets that card. So you have ways of trying to sabotage what the plots that the Corvid are bringing in. I love this game. This game is awesome, and I want more. Like, I want more factions to it, and I don't know if they plan on doing any more for this game. I know they did Vast, which I did not like, and then I haven't tried the Mysterious Manor, which was hopefully better than the Crystal Caverns. So yeah, this was a no-brainer to add to this list, because both of these factions are fantastic. So that's my number 4.
All right. Well, my number 4 is one that you have already said.
Oh, okay. Crossover.
Why?
I was like,
why is it that?
oh, is it?
Oh, I bet
The
Cat
cat
accidentally
fuck
put.
up.
No,
Cat,
it's
you
not the
suck.
No, my number 4 was role player, Fiends and Familiars.
Oh, Fiends and Familiars. How did she?
I don't know. That's all right. How about I do this? I'll just go there.
Hey, there's
My
your
number
number 4.
my
Look at
number
that.
4. um, so for the same
I
reason that you
was like,
said,
you're like my number 5 and number 4 are
yeah,
Splice
I
and
love
Dice.
them
It's
so
mad.
much. um, but yeah, this one just adds new stuff. I enjoy the new decisions that you get to make,
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff. It does make it. This one's probably the most complex of the. Of course, that's only the second expansion, but I mean, it's the more
Yeah.
complex of the ones, the monsters, and
Oh, you think so, huh?
well, just having the little the familiars, that attack. It just adds a little more to it. With the monsters and
Yeah.
minions one was just strictly, okay, I'm going to go fight this guy, or
Yeah.
it gave you that one gave you the option of like, oh, I don't want to buy anything from the deal. I'm just going to go kill a monster instead.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
This one just adds just a little bit, and I'm not saying it's a bunch more, but just
Sure.
a little bit more. Not to mention when this Kickstarter came out, it came with the big box, which was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was nice.
but yeah, I mean, this one's just more of a good thing, and I don't know. I would assume they're probably just gonna. Well, maybe they might come out with more. I don't know if they're.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the Adventures, is coming out with 10 campaigns. I think actually more because of the Kickstarter, but it was initially 10, and you and I got to play the alpha basically,
Yeah.
whenever it was truly in playtesting mode, and then I got to play the actual, like, their prototype when it was on Kickstarter. So luckily, it was pretty much the same thing that you and I had playtested, just a little bit more, refined.
Polished. Yeah.
That made me super stoked to play the Adventures. So yeah, I don't know if they're gonna continue just adding more campaign stuff to Adventures,
Well,
or that's gonna be it once they're done.
Yeah, the reason I don't think they're going to add more to this game is because they came out with the big box, and
Yeah.
and they already had that the insert edition and all that stuff. I just don't know if they're going to add much more to that.
That's true.
Since they're doing role player adventures now, they can pump a lot of crap into that because that box is
True.
big. It's gonna be a big box.
That's true. So okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, your number 4 was both this and Splice and Dice again.
I'm gonna. And now you ready
There
for
we
your
go.
3?
I don't know anymore. I don't know if what my number 3 is going to be. It might be this again. My number 3. There we go. Huh. All right. What the hell? I thought this was my number 1. I don't remember. Well, my number 3 as of right now, based off of this.
Slice and Dice. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. All right. Well, Marvel Champions: The Rise of Red Skull is a number in my list. This one is so good. Have you played this yet?
Yes.
You have? Okay.
Yes, I like it.
Wow. Okay. This was so awesome. Like, I love what Fantasy Flight is doing with Marvel Champions and with these kind of being the campaign styles. So much content comes in this box. You essentially get 5 new villains to play, because you can play any of them really in just any random game of Marvel Champions. And then you also have 2 new heroes that come with it, where I would say Spider-Woman is the better of the 2. I think Hawkeye kind of is very powerful only when he has arrows, and when he has arrows, he is just trash. But I loved all of the villains, that came in this game. It's technically, I don't know if it would technically be spoilers, but the 5 that came in all played radically different, and some of the ones that they added in the game, I was like, who the hell is this person? Like okay, I guess this is a enemy now, and then ended up being a blast to play. Because they did do, and the storytelling, they made it very like as a comic book, like it was comic panels and comics that I thought was awesome, and they obviously they ended it to lead into the next one. So I at this point I very much think that they're kind of copying the MCU in, okay, well, here's this one, then the next one is the Guardians of the Galaxy, which adds Rocket Raccoon and Groot, I think is the 2 playable characters.
Yes.
Oh, yes. And so you have those with the enemies that are probably going to be in that one, and then they're going to keep doing these. And this was not even that big of a box expansion. Like it was condensed, like it had so much meat to it. Yeah. And when Kat and I played through this was another one that she thoroughly enjoyed just playing, because Marvel Champions is just that great of a game. So yeah, I mean, more of a good thing, like you said, with Role Player. This one was obviously like it was definitely going on the list. So that is Marvel Champions: The Rise of Red Skull.
Your number 3.
I guess my number 3, yeah.
We'll see. Maybe you just forgot what your 2 and 1 are.
Right? Yeah, that could very much be it.
All right, so my number 3 is Hero Realms: The Lost Village campaign expansion.
Oh, nice. I haven't played it yet.
It is good. It's better than the first one.
Okay, that's good. The first one wasn't horrible. It was just kind of bog standard.
This one's pretty cool because, I mean, as you can see the cover, there's a lot of like beast stuff, and
okay,
and it's just, again, it's Hero Realms is a great deck building game, and when they threw this campaign in, the first one, it being a simplistic campaign, was still challenging.
True.
And stuff. This one is more challenging. And what's cool with this is you can play this through, because this was part of that next Kickstarter that had like the Ancestry decks and
that's
all
right.
that stuff.
Yeah.
So it changes your character and your stuff up. So the thing I like about these is, even once you've played through it, because they're not long campaigns, you can
not at all.
You can it doesn't ruin things. Like, you can keep playing them over and over, pick different heroes and different odds and ends. But yeah, this is a neat little idea that they came up with, especially for somebody like me who does the solo gaming, because Hero Realms is a 1v1 game normally. But when they came out with these campaigns like this, that was just perfect.
Yeah. Because I did the Ruin of Thandar, like the initial one. I did that one solo as well. And yeah, it was pretty cool because they did have kind of at least some choices into how the campaign goes in a 3-parter. So it had a little bit of replayability. But of course, like you said, you just play it with a different type of hero. I did it with the wizard, but it's like, okay, I'm gonna try it this time with the fighter or the ranger, and that will probably scale the difficulty of how you play, because you have the special abilities.
Yeah, well, yeah, it adds, like, you get your own character, you get these special deals that you get to add to your deck, and just it's just a really neat planned out thing.
Yeah.
For this, White Wizard Games does a good job with this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's definitely a good one to try. You'll have to give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, and then with this expansion, it also came with the big box storage solution that wasn't trash like their initial storage solution. It's very, very much better. So yeah, this one was just I haven't touched it yet, but I really need to give it a shot. So good choice, because I'm sure it's great. And did they? Because in the first one, they kind of alluded to a second one. Did they allude to another part of the campaign with this one?
Possibly.
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely has that the capability.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of room left in that box too.
There is a lot of room left. Okay. Great. Awesome. So I did look up I should have just had my list ready, but I was like, oh, I'll trust the PowerPoint. Yeah. So Marvel Champions Rise of Red Skull definitely was number 3. So
okay.
I know my number 2 and my number 1 are. So
All
my
right.
number 2 expansion for 2020 is Spirit Island Jagged Earth. Now, obviously, this is not going to be on your list because you don't have Spirit Island anymore.
Right.
But man, Jagged Earth was so good. Like this one was just, hey, here's Spirit Island and here's a lot more content to it. Like just how many spirits that they added, and also the different adversaries that you can play against that have like kind of like they give the invaders some more purpose. Like it gives them a country that they're from. It gives them more rules. And a challenge for the spirits. This one was just awesome because I already loved Spirit Island as a game. I believe it is one of the best cooperative games out there because of the true cooperative nature of all the players. Of like, okay, well, the fast and slow powers, it's like, okay, my character or my spirit is extremely slow, so if you guys can do this to manipulate the board, then I can do this, which will help us in the long run. Or it's like, well, we know the enemy is going to build or attack in mountains. Well, I can defend the mountains. So what else can you guys do to try and either ramp up more fear or to kill more people or destroy more towns or cities? And they truly went balls to the wall with this because they have some of the highest complexity spirits that I have seen since the game was coming out. Like there were a few of them that I think whenever I was setting up the game, and I like to think that I can handle games pretty well. The initial one that I was going to play had such a high complexity that I was like, yeah, I don't want to try this one right now. Yeah, I think two that were very high complexity, and it's insane. So this one also came with, of course, the broken token crate. And the insert, so it had a great storage solution, upgraded components. Once again, more of a good thing that for a game that I value and rank really, and this was no different. So amazing creative spirits and new ways to play this. So it's definitely my number 2 of the year. So Jagged Earth.
All right, my number 2.
There it is.
Rise of Red Skull.
Yep.
Same reasons that you said. It's it added a ton more content, first of all.
Yep.
With your heroes and more bad guys to run through and all that stuff. But then
yep.
I was curious how they were going to do the campaign.
Yep.
Because when Marvel Champions first got announced, they said, okay, there's gonna be a campaign box in the future, and everybody's like, oh my god, what is that gonna be?
Yeah.
And I'm satisfied with what they ended up doing.
Yeah.
So it's a challenging campaign.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, just slightly. But it's cool because you can run through this campaign with any of the other heroes as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can kind of dick around with that and see how things go. I saw this morning that I just got charged for my subscription for the Wasp.
Yep.
That is coming. So Wasp and Quicksilver and those guys will be here before long.
That is true.
But
yeah, do you know when the Guardians of the Galaxy one is coming out?
It was Q. I want to say it was quarter two
of next year.
21, I think. But that, and it just depends on how things are going. But I would say since they got this one out and stuff, I think they're going to keep pumping them.
Awesome.
But yeah, like you were talking about, Spider Woman's the best in this box.
Yeah.
Being able to have the multi, oh shit, what am I trying to say? The multi color, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah,
aspect,
the first one that
multi-aspect.
you can have. Yep.
But Hawkeye is a really good secondary.
Like a support. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a really good support because with the leadership, you play him with leadership, and he's a solid,
Yep.
Guy with that and stuff. But try playing him solo, nah.
No. I mean, don't get me wrong. Every character has at least one way of doing like a shit ton of damage, or a shit ton of thwart. And he has that. Like, but you have to have the right equipment out. You have to have a hand of arrows to be able to play. And he has ways of skimming through his deck, but once his arrows are gone, I mean, it is thematic. Yeah, once he has no more arrows to shoot, he's useless. But it's not that I didn't have fun with him. It's just he was a struggle. But yeah, I didn't even bring up the fact that you can play through this campaign with anyone. So it's like, ooh, let's do Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange, and then how well they do against all the different enemies, which would still be just as fun.
For sure.
So yeah, good choice. This is a good one. All right, my number one. Do you have any guess?
Well, I would assume. I mean, I have a good guess because you said you were going to put it on your expansion deal, and we haven't talked about it yet. So,
right.
Gloomhaven.
Yep. Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. I see why people would say this is its own game. I totally get it. But for me, I was already in love with Gloomhaven. That this was just more content to that, a new story, and yeah, this was obviously the best expansion or whatever you want to call it, but that came out this year. One, because Gloomhaven is already a phenomenal 10 out of 10 game for me, and this almost elevated it above a 10 to an 11 because of the phenomenal tutorial system that this game comes with. That, along with its scenario booklet that gives the game some fucking color and art, to weirdly a game that doesn't have any of that. The scenario booklet was just so great that I was like, wow, I really want this just for Gloomhaven, or I want this for Frosthaven, which I think they could easily do in the future. They could add a scenario booklet to Gloomhaven, but from what I was told, they are doing it for Frosthaven at a later date, so we'll see. Only time will tell, but yeah, everything you said, this is just a top tier expansion, one that more of these big box RPG campaign games need. You need a solid tutorial system, at least for the first couple games, to be able to get the players familiar with the rules instead of just being like, okay, here's all this shit, as well as here's the massive rule book, because that's extremely overwhelming. It's probably not that people don't want to play Gloomhaven, is that they're intimidated by the convoluted rule, well, not really convoluted, but the minuscule rule set of like, okay, so how the hell do enemies move? Hey, so they're tied, like, can attack two people, but I'm right up on them, so would they move away? Or it's like, but there's a trap in the way. Would they run through the trap, but that'll kill them? So do they do nothing? It's just like, this game fixes all of that.
Right.
And the game comes with like 20 scenarios, so it's not just like, oh, here's real to Gloomhaven. It's its own story that is compelling, just like regular Gloomhaven. So yeah, it was easily number one without a doubt. Like, I was like basically making the list. I'm like, Jaws of the Lion number one. Now how did the other ones fall? And true to its form, you were adamantly against Gloomhaven. I was like, hey, I'm getting Jaws of the Lion. Do you just want to see? Do you want to give it a shot? And then by the end of the tutorial, you're just like, oh yeah, I bought everything for Gloomhaven, and I also have a subscription to Gloomhaven porn, and now I have Frosthaven. All right, yep, now I have everything. Yep. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, there we go. So, yep, did what it meant to do, and props to Cephalofair for going through with it.
Yep, for sure. All right. My number one. Do you have a guess?
I would guess Hostage Negotiator Career. That would be, yeah.
Yeah.
We know each other so well.
Just like what you said about that, like when I started making this list, this was my number one. And then I cut it down. Because I love Hostage Negotiator all by itself. Like just plain Jane Hostage Negotiator was wonderful for me. I mean, I know it's irritating because of the luck sometimes, but the games are so damn fast that it doesn't make a difference. This is the kind of game that I bring to work, and I just have it in my filing cabinet. When I have 20 minutes, I can just pop it out real quick, play,
That's true, yeah.
Then when you got the Crime Wave box, added more stuff. Then when they came out with the career, I missed the Kickstarter. I ended up finding a Kickstarter version. But then that takes all the stuff from the previous to career and throws all those abductors and all that stuff into the scenario, the campaign, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And adding all of the away from work things, like the stressors and all this different stuff, because like you're gonna lose, but what's cool about this is when you lose, a deal, that you keep playing the career, it just kind of dings your deal. So it's kind of like, if you have a bad game or whatever, oh shit, I lost that deal, so I got in trouble or whatever, demoted, whatever. But if you keep winning, then you just get more and more of being a rock star, and your stressors keep piling up. I like how those things kind of trigger and fire off sometimes. It was interesting. I didn't know how well it was going to work, having the little red view thing to read stuff on the cards, because sometimes those don't work all that well. They work, they're serviceable on this. But just all the craziness that you have, and I bought the little add-ons for this too that add more stuff to go to into the decks, just to add more stuff. There's two other packs I bought that I haven't opened and put in yet that are like that changed. You talked about the very end, how it's kind of lackluster. There's two packs, I believe, that you can add more variety to the end.
Right. Yeah, they do have like different finale envelopes.
So those will be kind of interesting as we go. But this just turning a purely solo game like this, and to be able to throw this much theme into it, and everything, they just did a really good job with it. And I'm excited to see how because they're kind of using I think they're going to use a little bit of stuff like this with Final Girl and everything. So they just really hit a good chord for solo play with this one for sure. And it's a challenge as well.
This one is extremely hard. And I mean, one thing that I didn't mention was how quick the games were, because I was able to I did a mini series for my channel, and I was able to do years 1 through 5 in like an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours, and then 5 through 10 or 6 through 10 in like another. You can play all 10 games in like 2.5, 3 hours, which is insane because they go so quick, but have a fulfilling experience that they do a pretty good job of giving weight to. A hostage negotiator, obviously not the real thing, of course, but in what a board game can do without it being too serious. They add a little bit of it seems more like a crime drama show than a true like the real job. So yeah, I agree. I think they did a fantastic job with this. Right, so that was our top 10 expansions of 2020. I hope you enjoyed. Let us know what you think of these expansions in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.